right. Hey guys, it's Miss Savannah. We are going to be talking about the flow of energy in an ecosystem. So we'll be talking about this list of vocabulary right here. So last week you already talked about producers, consumers, and decomposers. So we're just going to quickly run over those during the PowerPoint. So we're going to be talking about food chains, food webs, producers, consumers, decomposers, herbivores, carnivores, omnivores, predator, and prey. So let's go ahead and get started. But before we get started, I want to remind you of your essential question. So your essential question is, how can you describe the flow of energy in an ecosystem? So a food chain is a group of living things that form a chain in which the first living thing is eaten by the second, and the second is eaten by the third, and so on. So we have an example of a food chain down here. So we start with the flower. So the caterpillar eats the flower. Even though the arrow is pointing towards the caterpillar, what this really means is that this flower is going into this caterpillar's mouth, right? This caterpillar is going into this frog's mouth. This frog is going into the snake's mouth, and the snake is going into the owl's mouth. So this one eats this one eats this one eats this one, and this one eats this one. So it's a food chain, and the arrows are pointing towards what's going into the animal's mouth, right, to eat it. So we have another one right here, and we've got producers, consumers, decomposers, and all of that good stuff. So let's go ahead and move on. So we also have a food web. So a food web is a group of food chains in an ecosystem that are connected. So there's different arrows going in all different places. So if we look, let me move myself up in this corner. If we look at this food web, it's very, there's a lot of arrows, right? So all of these animals, these little animals are eating this flower. And then this ladybug is eating this bug. This bird is eating this bug. This bird is also eating this bug. It's eating this. And then over here we have this owl that's eating this bird. And we have this owl that's eating this little rat. We've got this moth that's eating this bug. So it's all these different things that are eating each other, right? They have to do this to survive. So this is what a food web looks like. There's a lot of arrows going on because we know that, an animal eats more than just one thing. So that's what a food web is. Go to the next slide. So you guys talked about producers, consumers, and decomposers. So I'm just going to quickly go over this vocabulary with you. So a producer is an organism that produces oxygen and food like plants and algae. So we've talked a little bit about in class when we were talking about the respiratory system that trees actually create oxygen, and that's why they are super, super important, is because we need oxygen to breathe. So we breathe in that oxygen that the trees make. And then we've got algae and those things like, like little bugs and little tadpoles eat this algae. So a producer is producing something for a food web or for a food chain and for the ecosystem. Next one. A consumer is animals are consumers. So they eat algae, plants, or other animals. So we would be a consumer as well because we eat not algae. I don't think I've ever eaten algae, but we eat plants and other animals too. Unless you are a vegetarian, you wouldn't eat animals. But so a consumer is something that, is consumed. It's like you're taking it. You're consuming it. And a decomposer, so organisms such as bacteria, fungi, and worms that break down dead plants and animals into useful things like minerals that enrich the soil. So last March, I actually started a compost. So I would just take like all of our rotten fruit and vegetable scraps and all of that and put it in a bucket. And then I would dump it outside in a little, had like a little cage for it with chicken wire. And I put all that stuff in there because these worms and these different things would break down those dead plants, and it would make the soil really, really rich. And then after they broke it down, I would put that soil that they broke down into my garden to make my garden really good. So that's what a decomposer is. So now we're going to talk about herbivores, carnivores, and omnivores. So these are things that we have not talked about. So an herbivore is an animal that eats only plants. So we have a deer here and a zebra. Some other examples are deer, horses, rabbits, cows, bees, sheep, and grasshoppers. So these things only eat plants. They do not eat meat. Okay, like even this deer does not eat meat. Horses do not eat meat. They're basically vegetarians. An herbivore is something that only eats vegetables and plants. A carnivore. So carnivores are animals that eat only other animals, including insects. So we have a shark here eating this poor little seal. We have this tiger eating something I can't tell. So carnivores only eat meats. So this also includes insects, like I said. So some carnivores are felines, which are lions, tigers, and all cats. Birds of prey, like eagles, hawks, and owls. So these animals also eat meat. And sharks, frogs, and spiders. So even spiders are carnivores. So that makes them even more scary. All right. And then we have omnivores. So an omnivore is an animal that eats both other animals and plants. So we are omnivores unless you are vegetarian. So I am personally an omnivore. I eat hamburgers and sometimes salad. So some other examples are most bears, because bears eat fish, but they also eat blueberries. Most primates like monkeys and apes, and other birds like seagulls and little birds that aren't like predator. Okay, so those are omnivores. So just like I said, predator. So we're going to talk about predator and prey now. So predator is an animal that hunts and kills other animals for food. So we've got a wolf here about to attack this animal, and this, I think this might be a tiger. Can't really tell because it's really close, wanting to eat these little deer. So predator is an animal that hunts and kills other animals for food. So prey are animals that are hunted for food. So these are usually like the smaller, weaker animals, usually the cuter ones that are prey. All right, so that is all for food chain, food web, producer, consumer, decomposer, herbivore, carnivore, omnivore, predator, and prey. So thank you guys. I hope you guys learned something. Watch the other videos as well to get more information. Thank you. Bye.